I'm still refusing to call it an office, but that's my personal prejudice against ties, endless pointless meetings and team building days based on who moved my cheese? Can you tell us what are the 3 or 4 most common mistakes, sound design, composition, arrangement, mix, in demos you've listened to? Where do I send my demos? Oh, there we go, to 5302 Recordings. Hey guys, welcome to the Kane audio vlog. It is Friday, it's time for another Ask Me Anything. Usual rules apply. Comment anything you want below this video and I'll get back to you in next week's video. Before I look at last week's video, let's address the elephant in the room, which is the new room, which is my studio. I was kind of hoping to have it fully finished by today. I didn't start shifting stuff in until yesterday afternoon, so I apologise in advance if the sound is no good. I've not even listened to the sound, I don't know where anything is. As you can see, the acoustic panels behind me are literally just dumped on the floor. There's some behind the camera, they're just everything's everywhere. It's a complete and utter mess. I would like to show you around, but also that's another thing I've noticed. I've got everything's black table, black speakers, black panels. I have no idea how to light this place up at this point. I've got 2 of my big old lights pointing at me so that I'm lit up. I have no idea what this is going to look like for you guys on screen. So yeah, apologies for this video potentially looking and or sounding just like a bag of shit. But well, there's nothing I can do about it. I've made the commitment yesterday to start bringing stuff in, and then obviously the room I was in became an empty room, and then all of a sudden I thought, oh, I can't do my AMA in this empty room because it was echoey and, well, empty. So yeah, so I haven't set anything up. Just deal with it for this week. I would kind of show you around, but there's not much to show you around. It's quite a small room. For those of you that haven't been following this channel, it's a log cabin I've built in my garden. I have spent the last 2 years planning this and the last 6 weeks building it. It's getting there. I have, obviously the structure is in place. I have electric, I have gigabit connection, Wi-Fi 6, I have an alarm system that's 24/7 monitored and dispatches police and everything. I've got heating, I've got everything that makes a room workable, I suppose, to the point where I could shift my equipment in. So I'm getting there. However, I've not sorted out the acoustics. I've not even listened to any audio through the speakers yet. I have no idea what anything sounds like. This is also, I will be doing a whole video series for my YouTube channel on this. But it's going to be a work in progress. So now I'm in here, I can kind of start focusing on getting episode 1 done, which is really just going to be looking at the theory, the options and what the plan was. However, it's worth pointing out that this is kind of just the beginning really, because so I have the log cabin structure and it's all fully insulated in terms of keeping warm in the winter, but it's not fully insulated in terms of acoustic and soundproofing or anything like that. So there's still quite a long way to go. I kind of figured that because I'm in a garden of my own private property, I'm not really too close to any neighbours or anything, so and I don't work particularly loud, and I don't know if the microphone is picking this up. but there's a lovely sort of tree to the back of this place with some birds that sing all day long, which to me is a lovely, peaceful environment to work in. So I kind of opted to not completely soundproof the hell out of the place from day one. I thought I'll see how we get on until, you know, through building it this summer, going through winter, and sort of seeing what it's like. Because I don't know, for example, I have what's called a warm roof, which is basically a couple of inches thick, or for the people in 2020, that's about 30 mil thick. And it's not at all soundproof, so I'm kind of thinking, well, what happens when it rains? It hasn't rained yet, so I don't, well, it's drizzled, but it's not fully rained yet, so I don't know how it's going to go through the winter. Living in the northwest of England, we get fairly heavy rain, fairly heavy wind, so yeah, I think that kind of explains where I'm at. So yeah, I think that's clearly there's no other house admin. You can see I've been busy. Yeah, so I think that kind of covers it. You know, you can see I've got my Moog there, which was in the back room of the house with me. I've not unpacked anything else. I've not really done much. I can see to my right here. So over here I've got window and doors and everything on this side, but they're all blacked out with curtains and blinds. But at the moment, you know, I've just got a stack of acoustic panels, so it kind of feels a bit cramped. Don't get me wrong, this is not the world's biggest working space, and I never intended it to be either. And that's kind of the point. I'll get into more into that when I start doing videos on this thing. I kind of wanted to do something that was on a music producer's budget, not a top 10 selling multi-million-dollar whatever. So I think it's quite important that I sort of say this is for the average person, hopefully. Yeah, so welcome to the new location for the rest of these videos for the foreseeable future, I guess. Yeah, there we go. I don't think there's anything else I can say at this point because it's all question marks for me. I've also just realised I've been facing that way and the microphone is that way, so again, apologies if the audio is just going wank, but nothing I can do. Let's have a look. There's only a few questions from last week's video by the looks of it. I think everyone's kind of suffering with quarantine fatigue. So starting at the top, is this last week's 107? Yes. Cavacay. Oh mate, Manchester Orchestra, what a find, thank you. Some of the instrumentation reminds me of Novella and Hammock, but with the incredible vocals too, up there with Frightened Rabbit and Snow Patrol for me. Yeah. Thanks in advance for the Archive 5302 playlist as well. I've forgotten to do that, but I will do that while I edit this video. So note to self, Dom, while you're editing this, put the archive together. And cheers for another AMA. Lockdown, high five. No question this week, just going to say Bitwig 2.3, wow, the team done good. Yes, they sure did. P.S. I'm still refusing to call it an office, but that's my personal prejudice against Ty's endless pointless meetings and team building days based on who moved my cheese? Writing room, atelier, maybe not office. But it's not up to me, so yeah, office. Yeah, so that was something I mentioned last week. Basically, I'm kind of hesitant to call this a studio because I think, in fairness, now my equipment's in here, I kind of feel like, okay, maybe it is a studio. But up until, well, yesterday, it was really just an empty log cabin, and I struggled to sort of see it. And you know, I still haven't got any lights set up. You can probably just make out stuck behind a panel there is a neon light that I had I've got a couple of, and I kind of wanted to put them in the corners behind the corner acoustic panel units, but the acoustic panels don't stack too high in here, so they're going to need some modifications. There's a whole host of stuff that I'm going to go through, and I'm going to try and do videos on these sorts of things as well, because I feel like there's a lot of videos out there in the world of the right way to do things and the professional way to do things, but sometimes you kind of need the custom way to do things of well, how's that work for me? So for example, these corner units, which are great, you know, when they're stacked too high, which I feel they should be in the corners, they're then nearly like 3 meters high, so you know, clearly this is a garden cabin, so it's not 3 meters high, because that would mean regulations would apply. So you know, things like customizing that I'm going to have to do, which I'm probably going to try and do a video on how I sort of customized it. Yeah, so there we go. But as for calling it an office, yeah, I mean, I guess, you know, this is, for me, my office is not a suits and ties type situation and team building, let alone who moved my cheese. I don't know what that is, but I'm intrigued. I want to play it now. So yeah, there we go. Thank you very much, Cabagay. Francesco Di Carlo. Very interesting questions and answers, and thanks for mentioning the murders and riots as well. Can you tell us what are the 3 or 4 most common mistakes, sound design, composition, arrangement, mix, in demos you've listened to? Hold on with the new garden office. High five. Cheers. That's kind of a tricky one, to be honest, because I think everyone does different mistakes, if there's such a thing. So, okay, starting with the first, sound design. I think sound design for music production needs to be treated like a mixdown in a weird way. Mentally, it needs to be, I think each sound needs to complement the other. And I think a mistake lots of people make is they find a lead sound that they really like and a bass sound that they really like and maybe some chord sounds that they really like, and individually they sound great, but together they don't tend to work. There's often a mistake where people will have their chords and pads interfere with their bass line, or their bass line interferes with their chords and pads, and there's this sort of overlapping frequencies in certain sounds. There's that subharmonic low end element in a chord. So I think there's a lot to consider there, but I think that's probably quite a common mistake. What else? Composition. Well, composition's kind of a tricky one to lay out. I guess really, I think compositionally a lot of people tend to just make things a bit too repetitive, and I know electronic music is, you know, repetitive dance music, but it doesn't have to be that repetitive. It doesn't always have to be repetitive. And also sometimes it's nice, I guess that's a compositional thing, is sometimes it's nice where you have maybe a bit of a melody that just plays for, you know, 30 seconds or so in a track and then doesn't come back again. You know, you don't have, and it's very difficult, and don't get me wrong, I fully appreciate that. From my own experience, sometimes I'll write a melody and bring the melody in, and I can't get rid of it, because every time I try and stop the melody, I feel it feels empty all of a sudden, and we get fixated onto this thing, and then we start to go, oh no, I need to keep looping that melody, and it's not always the case. There are ways around it. Arrangement. The biggest mistakes for arrangement are the obvious too short or too long, really. Like, there's a lot of tracks where, you know, someone's from demos I hear where someone's sort of trying to write a radio friendly track that they expect to get commercial success or whatever, and it's 6 minutes long, and vice versa. There are people who write an EDM banger that they want support from big DJs in DJ sets, and they've written it 2.5, 3 minutes long. You know, and I think that's self-explanatory. The other thing with arrangement, I suppose, is I'm a sucker for this as well. I definitely do this myself. Sometimes I have 2 breakdowns in a track and they're almost identical. Sometimes that can be a bit boring. Yeah, I think a mix, I'm not going to get into mix because that's a whole can of worms. So yeah, so in demos I've listened to, I would say those are probably the most common mistakes. This is over the years. What I will say for my forthcoming label, 5302, everybody go to 5302.co.uk. The demos I've had coming through have been really, really good so far. In fact, some of them, admittedly, especially the artists that I've already announced and signed, man alive, some of the tracks we have got forthcoming for 5302, honestly, I am just so excited. Like, it's lit something inside me that hasn't been lit for a very long time, and I can't tell you how excited I am for end of this year going into next year when these tracks start coming out. The bar has been set so high, so I hate to put any pressure on any of you guys that are thinking they're sending me demos or whatever. I hate to put the pressure on, but the bar has been set so high. I don't even know where we go from here. Like, there have been some tracks that I'm signing, and I just think, wow, are we peaking in the first few releases? It's brilliant. I'm so happy. So yeah, there we go. Not Your Human. Hi Dom, love the vid. I just wanted to know, where do I send my demos? Oh, there we go, to 5302 Recordings. So I think on the website there's a contact page. And I think I have put demos at 5302.co.uk as the email address. Sorry, I feel like I'm going to sneeze. Yeah, there we go. We'd love to hear your music. Please send downloadable SoundCloud or Dropbox links to demos at 5302.co.uk. So there we go. It's always best to check on the website as well for that address, because from past experience, having an email address publicly visible on a web page, you know, you end up getting spammed a lot. So we'll see what happens to that. And finally, John Bloomfield. Hi Dom, thanks again for the ADAT info, very much appreciated. There is about a £400 difference between the Behringer and Audient ADAT, so I think I will see how I get on with just the interface for now. Yeah, that's fair enough. And I think it was the ASP 800 I think I was recommending. Yeah, there is a fairly substantial difference in cost, and I think if you're running a professional studio and you're recording vocals or acoustics, and I've always said this about, you know, preamps and a lot of things like reverbs and effects and, you know, stuff like that, I always feel like unless you're running a high-end studio recording acoustics and vocals and things like that, you're probably not gonna hear, or you may hear the difference, but you're probably not going to get your money's worth, I guess, is what I'm saying. As much as I absolutely love Audient stuff, and their preamps are brilliant, I would say for the average person, especially in electronic music, you're probably not going to have a huge difference. So yeah. You mentioned you were looking at cameras, etc. for your office. I used to have Nest cameras for my house, which used to charge £4 a month per camera to store 5 days worth of history. Since Google bought out Nest, they now charge £5 per month for multiple cameras. I recently upgraded my camera to Ubiquiti Unify Protect, which use power over Ethernet, but you need some way of storing the footage. The Ubiquiti kit isn't cheap either, so all depends on the budget. If you want more info, give me a shout. Happy to discuss my network setup, etc. Thank you very much. So in terms of network setup, I am running Asus routers in the house with a gigabit connection, and I have the AI mesh, I think it's called, setup, which I'm no longer happy with, having run it for 48 hours, because there are issues with frequencies. So interestingly, the camera, the alarm system I'm using has a built-in camera as part of the system, as part of the kit, which only runs on 2.4 gigahertz, and I've set up my routers to be 5 gigahertz because everything I own is 5 gigahertz, and because I have the AI mesh, that's fine. Now normally I would set up a guest network and set that as 2.4 gigahertz and then get the alarm system onto the guest network. But something I learned last night was that when you're running AI mesh networks, there are limitations, so the guest network doesn't become part of the mesh. So the guest network is still on the main router, whereas the secondary node router in here is only meshing or networking the main Wi-Fi and not the guest network, which seems a bit odd. So I need to look into that. Power over Ethernet, I'm okay with. I get it, but I kind of opted not to do that. I'm still going to add more cameras to the property anyway, and we've got cameras on the property anyway at the front, but and now we've got cameras at the back, but I'm going to add more, and I'm just going to use the ones we've got, so I'm good with that, I think. But yeah, the alarm system I've got is pretty good. I'm really impressed with it so far. So it's all keypad entry and fobs and geolocations, and there's a camera system, and like I say, if you pay the monthly subscription as well, then I can have people verify at the camera to a dispatch call centre and whatnot, and then they can send the police out if needs be, and all sorts of clever trickery. So yeah, I'm quite impressed. So there we go. That was a bit of a geeky end to today's AMA. There's only a few questions. Yeah, we've only been going 20 minutes, so it's short and sweet, which is probably a good thing, because as you can see, I've got loads of work to do now. Yeah, it's just never ending. I thought there was enough work to do building this place, and then you sort of build it, and then you go, oh god, now I've got to fit everything and set it all up and wire it in, and I've put in trunking and electric sockets and everything, and then I'm looking at it going, did I put enough sockets? Do I need to order more sockets? Yeah, so it's just a complete mess. And of course, my last studio before where I was, if you remember when I was back in Cardiff, it was like 5 by 6 meters or something, a huge industrial estate. So I've probably got way too many acoustic panels for in here, and some of them will need customizing. Yeah, so hopefully this time next week I'll have a slightly more seamless AMA, and hopefully the audio has come out okay. I'm sort of looking at how the distances of walls and ceilings and acoustic panels from the microphone. The microphone is just off screen there, so hopefully you're picking up everything, and yeah, hopefully it's not a complete disaster, but I would say I'll find out in the edit, but actually I don't know what this room sounds like either, so I have no point of reference. So there we go. Whatever, I'm waffling as per usual. Thank you very much for listening. Let's get a keyword. If you've made it this far into the video, comment the word unbelievable, because I am being recommended the most unbelievable boxing moments. So comment the word unbelievable and you'll get a high five in next week's AMA. I hope everyone has a good weekend. and a good week, and I'll see you same time next week. Cheers.